this would you like them to be dim?
Can't see.
Oh. Good evening. My name is Derek Ogden. I'm the president of all of you to the mayoral Meet the Candidates evening. It's one part of the NCA service to the community here. We especially welcome the candidates for making the trip west across the M1 for tonight. After all, Nerang is the geographic centre of the Gold Coast. I'll quickly run through the format for this evening and then we'll get straight on to the programme. Each speaker will have 5 minutes only to address the Assembly on his or her policies. At the expiry of 5 minutes, a bell will sound. Further 10 seconds will be allowed to allow the candidate to wind up his or her address. The moderator will then ask to conclude immediately. Speaking order of the candidates is to be drawn out of a hat. Order will be reversed for concluding address in the interest of fairness. Questions from the floor will be at the moderator's discretion. There is a 50-minute question time. Priority will be given to questions directed to all the candidates. And in the event there are more questions for one or two particular candidates, the moderator may ask for a question from the floor to be directed to the other candidates. Speakers answering questions will be allowed 1 minute to respond. At the expiry of 1 minute, a bell will sound. A further 10 seconds will be allowed to allow the speaker to wind up the answer. He must then conclude immediately. Each speaker will be allowed 1 minute for the conclusion of an address. Candidates, please stay for a light supper at the conclusion of formalities. This is an opportunity for you to engage with the residents. The event tonight is being streamed live on watchlive.com.au/GC election. There is a Twitter feed also, and that is hashtag GC Mayor Meet. If you miss anything tonight, it will be on YouTube after the event. The moderator for this evening is a man of high intellect, integrity, and with an innate sense of fairness. He is a former Judge of the Supreme Court, and I would like to introduce to you the Honourable David Ashton Lewis. Just a few words about the judge. The Honourable David Ashton Lewis practiced law in Tasmania and Melbourne, primarily in the areas of corporate and commercial law, common law, equity, administrative law, constitutional law, and criminal law. In 1984, David was appointed counsel in the Justice Department of Papua New Guinea. In 1989, he was appointed to the rank of Senior Queen's Counsel by the Attorney General and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea. In that year, he was also honoured by Her Majesty the Queen for serving the region. In 1991, David was appointed a Judge of the High Court and Court of Appeal of the Republic of Fiji. David currently consults to the corporate sector in both Australia and the Pacific region in the areas of financial services and investment law and statutory regulation. He is also a facilitator for the Australian Institute of Company Directors in Australia, Fiji and Papua New Guinea, training directors on the boards of private, public, statutory and government corporations in their roles, duties and obligations under the law. Without further ado, I will start the draw for the order of speaking by the candidates. So if I can have the hat, please. Number 3, Andy Middleton. Number 4, John Abbott. Thanks. Number 5, Penny Tolan. And number 6, the one left, Brett Lambert. Thank you. I'll now hand you over to our moderator for this evening and grab some questions.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for inviting me to do this. And before we start, I would like to ask you a couple of things. Politics to Australians is usually quite passionate, and it usually encourages passion, and sometimes too much passion can lead to rudeness and discourtesy. So I would really ask you, please, no matter what you think, these candidates need you, and you need them. They need you to vote for them, and you need them to govern the Gold Coast in the very important role of mayor. So whether you like, love, hate or despise any of these candidates, can I ask you please to keep your personal views to yourself? No rudeness from the floor, no heckling, no attacking. You can vent all your passion on Saturday or when you vote. But please do each of them the courtesy of listening to what they say. I think you better get ready for a long haul, because I've had a look at the amount of questions, and there's a heap of them. And so we're going to be here for a while. Now, I will do my best to take questions from the floor, but questions from the floor, please keep your questions short. Ask only one question, and as you can see, the candidates are limited in the time that they can answer. They have 1 minute to answer questions. So this is not like a normal journalistic function where there's either an attempt to get gotcha moments or attack or trap. This is really an informational time where you can hear what these candidates have to say, and then you can make up your mind what you will do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your courtesy, and I hope it's an instructive and a pleasant evening for you. I'll now call upon Tom Tate, if he would please come and speak to you about what he proposes as Mayor if he's re-elected.
Well, good evenings, ladies and gentlemen. We all stand before you because one common thread that runs right through us as candidates is that we're passionate for our city, one way or another. That's why we've put up our hand. In my case, I worked as Chamber of Commerce Chairman for region of the Gold Coast and Director of CCIQ for 8 to 10 years before I decided to put up my hand as Mayor, going for the mayoralty 4 years ago. At that time, there were quite a few frustrating things that I looked at the old council. I thought, well, it's time that I put up my hand and be inside the tent and have a crack. One of the main issues that was going around then was that the unpredictable rate rises, our council rates. Back in 2011, that rate increase was 8.5% rate increase that year. I asked the Chief Operating Officer to go, well, you do have a 10-year program for your financials for your council. What is the predicted rate increase for the next 10 years? Got an email back. There was 5.5% increase compounded every year for 10 years. It means a rate rise in the 4-year term of 23%. We went out to the wider community, and I know one part was that we can't afford that. At that time, the Gold Coast the job was low, confidence was low, and have to do something about it. So what do we do? First up, as we went in, we reformed council. We reduced the directorates from 8 directorates down to 5. We cut out the wasteful expenditure. They mooted, as they labelled it, the new council headquarters at Robina, the Taj Mahal. $340 million was going to be spent in Robina on that alone. That was put aside, shelved. We still got the land there because there's some complications there that when it was purchased. But either way, that was moved on. We had a look at the fit out for All Connects. It's one of the best top-of-the-range fit-out that you can get. Gold-plated, and when you look at it that way, you think, well, there's no respect for council rates. Our money. So to go around and to make a difference, we did a lot of measures. The first year, we trimmed $168 million out of the budget, cutting out wasteful expenditure and going back to basic. Second year, we did $50 million, $50.4 million. And the third year was $35 million in the expenditure cutting. From there, but mind you, I never cut frontline services to the people of the Gold Coast, whether it be at the service, whether it be libraries and the like. And as a result, for this term, an average rate increase was around 3%. And in the last year was 1.1 in this financial year. You know, you couldn't do that alone. You had to change the mindset. And when I went around the whole of the city, of the council workers, it was a bit like, let's bring pride back into our city. Let's do things cheaper, better, faster. And we implement that throughout. Started off with the engineering department. As being an engineer, I thought, well, that's one department I can get it really going. And also, that department had about 1,800 jobs. Now, 4 years later, our city workers are proud to be working for council. It's a big difference in the past. On top of that, I have to say, you couldn't do it alone. This is probably the most united council since amalgamation. When you look at it, yes, we'll have our differences, we'll debate on issues, and we'll to and fro in council, and at the end of it all, when things are said and done, we're out there serving the community. I get guided by our local area councillors, and in this case, Councillor Tracy Gilmore, what she needs. In other cases, in other divisions, it's the same thing. And we bring that back to the budget. And we all go through the budget line by line, right through. Main aim, respect ratepayers. And tonight, I want to share with you that with Sid Cramp and me, we have come up with the Vision 2020 for Nerang. Is that the end, Judge? 1 minute? 10 seconds. I can share this with you more at whether it be on our Facebook and the like or in question time. Thank you.
I now have the pleasure to ask Jim Wilson if he would come and address, and remember, it's 5 minutes, and when the bell rings, you have about 10 seconds.
Thank you, Dave. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to attend this evening. As many of you will be aware by now, I'm standing for Mayor. Since 1962, my extended family have lived on the Gold Coast, maybe longer than any of the other candidates here tonight, and I intend to do so for the rest of my life. I love this city, but what I don't like about this city is what I see happening to it lately. I could reel off a myriad of examples, but that would take double the time that I've been allotted for tonight's speech. It's because of what I don't like happening to this city that I have caused to stand before you tonight in this candidature. There is an old saying, if you don't like something, don't complain, do something about it, become involved, and that's why I'm here tonight. Now, I could stand before you tonight and wax lyrical about all the wonderful policies I intend to deliver until I bore you to tears. I could make promises that I haven't got a hope of keeping because I don't know if there is or will be enough money to pay for them. So I won't insult your intelligence by doing that, and I also won't put my personal credibility at risk by so doing. Of course, there are many things I would like to achieve as Mayor, but until I know where the council stands financially, I would be a foolish liar and a political opportunist to make any commitments or promises to you that I have no hope of keeping. Having said that, it doesn't mean that I don't intend to get things done, and I'm about to tell you how. I have held the position of Assistant Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer in large Queensland-based public companies. I'm also a commercial and corporate lawyer who specialises in business and governance and who has a unique work history of having diversified leadership experience at senior executive level in a wide range of industries. I intend to use that knowledge and those skills to the benefit of this wonderful community. By this I mean that if I'm elected Mayor, the very first task I will undertake is to have an independent, expert, comprehensive financial audit done of all council operations starting from the top down. Now, I could go on ad nauseum about the many broken promises and undelivered policies of previous mayors. But I'm not here tonight to do that, as most of you know what they are anyway. What I'm here to tell you unequivocally is that if I am elected Mayor, I will stop the waste and freebies, the secrecy and the mistakes of the past. In future, my council will arrange regular community forums and consultation sessions on major projects before they go to council for decision, not after the decision has already been made. Any final submissions on major projects will be put on public exhibition to allow the community to have their say on what their final views are on the project. At all times, all councillors and the Mayor will have to declare all and any gifts or benefits they have received. Every conflict of interest, no matter how seemingly minor or remote they might appear to be, must and will be declared on any projects before Council at all times. I will vehemently continue my opposition to any donations by developers to our councillors. Only those matters involving business in confidence, of which there are very few, will be held in closed sessions of Council. Every other issue, no matter how seemingly controversial it is or might be, will be dealt with in open Council. So, ladies and gentlemen, in summing up, the only promise I will make to you tonight is that within the first year of my term as Mayor, I will undertake and conclude a full independent financial and operational audit of the council organisation so that every ratepayer in this city will know how, when and where their rates are being spent. Then and only then will we know what projects we can afford to proceed with, at which time you, the public, will have a say in what they are and whether they proceed. I'm a man of few words, but a lot of action. Thank you for your time.
I have the pleasure now to call on Andrew Middleton. Would you please come on up?
Jim's a damn hard act to follow, I tell you. Right, I'm going to chuck out some policies, see how we go. Oh, by the way, I'm your local. I live in Carrara. Rightio, I'm for the residents and the residents only. I'm not here for the people that come and go, just fly-by-nighters that come into the Gold Coast. I will create a budget to meet the urgent needs of the community without starving the essentials. I plan to have a 4-year ban on high-rise development in Southport, Surfers Paradise, Chevron Island, Isle of Capri and Broadbeach so that the infrastructure can be put to work and give the other areas the opportunity to develop and refurbish while keeping the flow of jobs. Building overpasses on roundabouts in suburbia to keep traffic flowing instead of traffic lights and make sure we don't wreak havoc with where people live. I plan to scrap plans for the shipping terminal as it will congest the city even more with 50 to 80 buses being allocated at every time a ship comes in, which will also, I have to mention, these buses, where are they going to be till the next ship comes in? Like if you've got a car park sitting there with 80 buses and they all go in from Main Beach, it's just going to put the congestion back in that the tram's already created in Surfers Paradise. A train line, a heavy rail from Varsity Lakes through to Coolangatta will please residents in the northern suburbs, because then they'll be able to just jump straight on a train and go to the airport. And there is also an inclusion with a possible station at Merrimack, which will relieve the western suburbs. Express buses to be introduced with improved timetables, more direct routes such as Nerang to Broadbeach and Nerang to Surfers Paradise via Ashmore Road. This will include the introduction of an R51 bus, less fuel costs, which is this bus is a smaller unit and a bus that also accommodates smaller communities such as Yatala and surrounding areas for workers and commuters. And for the express buses, more convenient stops and shelters, improved routes and timetables. I will not be increasing rates and water rates as incorrectly stated by the Gold Coast Bulletin yesterday. I will work with councillors to clean up derelict looking sites and buildings in the city and suburbs. This would include areas of the Spit. CCTV expansions for local safety and to capture illegal dumping hotspots. This includes working with police and emergency services for entertainment precincts. A reconstruction of animal management. Introduction of a hotline for dog attacks. The dog attacks is absolutely phenomenal here on the Gold Coast at the point, and it needs addressing badly. I'll also bring in more field officers and introducing immunisation and dissection programs and targeting puppy farms that are actually cruelty to bitches. I will also, this is the doozy, I will also be scrapping dogs in outdoor dinings due to a fraudulent risk assessment done by Food Standards Australia due to the food poisoning in Queensland since the introduction and parvovirus that's been killing dogs as well. I will be supporting programs for the homeless and ice addictions, investigate grants for education and small business, investigate trainee opportunities within council, and investigate into allowing party houses in everyday residential living and body corporate living. Thank you very much.
I now call upon Mr. John Abbott, please.
Good evening to all, and thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Abbott. I come from the entertainment industry. I've spent 40 years working with major artists and obtaining enormous amount of experience on how to run and organise venues, bands, entertainment. This is my forte. This is what I can bring to the Gold Coast in relation to its tourism. In any event, what I'd like to do is share with you at this point in time, I'm well aware that I'm only one vote, so I have no delusions about the eagle, golden eagle at my chair. I'm one of the team, and that is all. Bring the team together and work as a team on behalf of the community. However, having said that, I would like to share with you what I would like to do. What are my policies that I would represent or present to council? They are as follows. Because I'm a Christian, I believe in Christianity and the wholesome of Christian living and life. The first step is 1, reinstate our constitution in the curriculum to all Gold Coast schools. Knowledge is power and power is knowledge. It is important that our children, we know what the written expression of our will is, our constitution. It was taken out of our schools in 1975. The time has come to reinstate it. Secondly, the rate charges, calculate them on services rendered, not the values of our property. Bring them down. I've had an email from a Gold Coaster who writes, Mr. Tom Tate has suggested that we make the Gold Coast more Muslim friendly. Prayer rooms in Surfers Paradise, etc. I don't agree. We are a Christian nation and Islam and Christianity do not mix. We'll never live in harmony. It is time that our politicians who are supposed to be looking after our interests woke up to this fact and stop worrying about being called racist. In that vein, I will say to you, I'll do everything that I can to make sure there are no more mosques on the Gold Coast. 4, no to oil spills and pollution from cruise ships on our pristine beaches. No to any cruise ship terminal. 5, promote water sports such as surfing, Ironman, Ironwomen competitions, fashion parades, netball and other beach sports at Surfers Paradise Beach. 6, stop profiteering on water and lower water rates. 7, protect and advance a natural environment as a key tourist asset. 8, commence a major tourist promotional campaign to coincide with the Commonwealth Games, such as a project I have in mind called Angels on the Gold Coast. 9, promote environment including beaches, hinterlands, life in the sun and not high-rise or concrete jungle. 10, work towards unclogging the M1 by marking lanes 80, 90, 100 and 110 to give drivers a constant run with like-minded motorists on each lane. 11, no federal funding for so-called safe school programs. 12. All children deserve to know a mother and a father, and I would discourage any alternative. 13. Develop Wave Break Island for boating, jet ski sports and recreation. 14. Engage the meter maids to host and promote Surfers Paradise and encourage photo sessions with the maids for the benefit of our tourists and promotion of our Gold Coast. 15. Engage actors to become the fun police at the Surfers Paradise Mall for constant entertainment and fun. And the last one, 16. Reinstate Christian values and principles and discourage any alternatives. Thank you.
I now call upon Miss Penny Tolan to come and address you.
Thank you. Because we only have 5 minutes, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of myself and my history and an umbrella of the type of things that are important to me, so you get an idea of the priorities moving forward if I'm elected. So I've grown up on the Gold Coast. I always laugh, made in Australia, born in England, and then we came back when I was 7 months old, so you can work out the history there. Went to Musgrave Primary, then Helensvale High, and went on to study at QUT in Brisbane. So my first degree is in medical science, and I work as a senior medical scientist at Gold Coast Hospital, or Gold Coast University Hospital now. And I became admitted as a solicitor also through QUT in 2013. So the things that are important to me, and the reason I'm running, is in any level of government, I believe it is crucial to have balance in regards to decision making, transparency, accountability, be consultative and collaborative. So when it comes to balance, I think that the pendulum has shifted too far over the last 4 years. I think we need a balance of our natural landscape and our urban landscape. We also need balance within our urban landscape, so not high density, high rise from one end of the coast to another. I think it is nice when you drive around the coast and you go from suburb to suburb and you have different type of housing options. So that's very important to me. We've been told numerous times in the news that the population on the Gold Coast is going to double in the next sort of 10 to 20 years. Because of that, more and more importance should be placed on our public open space, especially with the increased high density developments. People will need a space to go to. The more people you have, the more vital public open space is. So it is very important to me that public parks and the like are kept in public hands. What we have seen of late are parks, well, one particular park being sold off to a private developer to build residential towers to fund the cultural centre. The cultural precinct was described as at zero cost to ratepayers. I think selling off our public parks, which are purchased by ratepayers with our levies, our open park levy and recreation levy, I think selling that off means that is a cost, and a very, very big cost. We have seen a sales office for a private development be placed in a park dedicated to a war hero in Surfers Paradise. I now wonder what that family must think of when they go past there, and instead of seeing the plaque for their fallen family member, they see a gigantic sales office for a private development. The electrical substation that currently sits on the Iluka 88 site in Surfers Paradise is going to be relocated to a public park. So once again, that will be off limits until it is that construction is over. So more and more of our open space is vanishing. When it comes to transparency, I got my rates bill, like probably most people in this room, in October, and I had a look at all the different levies that we pay, and I wrote to council to find out where that money was being spent. An open land levy and the recreation levy. I have not seen any area of conservation value being purchased of late, nor have I seen an increase in sporting fields. And these are the type of spaces, as the population continues to expand, that we need. We've seen the Tugun soccer club down at Tugun losing their fields because the rugby club needs more space. And yet, where are our levies going? Are we purchasing more fields for kids to play in? No. Can't get that information. So that's something that I want to do a full audit of, the amounts being collected and where that's being spent. We also pay a transport levy for traffic improvement. I personally haven't felt that traffic has improved in the last 4 years. In fact, I spend more time in my car than anywhere else. Kind of wish it had a TV in there when I'm stuck in traffic. I thought it was interesting in the introduction that Nerang is the centre of the Gold Coast, and yet, I live at Helensvale myself. I had a look at the key priorities for the budget moving forward from 2015-16. Not $1 is dedicated north of Southport, west of Broadbeach, or south of Robina. So if Nerang is the centre of the Gold Coast, why is it not listed in the key priorities? To me, I think we need a whole of Gold Coast mayor. A mayor that understands that, it's not just the glitter strip, that understands people out in Nerang, are lacking in public transport, lacking in investment. People up in Coomera, Mudrabar, down south at Coolangatta are really feeling neglected, and all the focus is on basically that glitter strip. So if elected, I'll be a whole of city mayor, not just a glitter strip mayor. Thank you.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I ask Brett if he would come up and speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here tonight to learn about your candidates. As you can see, there are 6 of them, and on the ballot form, I am number 6. And tonight, I'm the 6th speaker. It's a bit ironic, isn't it? So that is a number to remember. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here because it's only a hop, skip and jump from here that I lived in a house just up the road on a hill when the old highway came through here and then out the back and straight up to Brisbane, which back then took about 2.5 hours to drive. Now, of course, we have all the infrastructure being put in place to make it better, easier and faster. And that's a pleasure to see that we have progress on the Gold Coast all the time. But allow me just to introduce myself as a person and a little bit on me so you can learn something about me and hopefully remember. I've resided on the Gold Coast all my life. And residing on the Gold Coast, I actually went to Nerang State School. And when we moved around, I've also went to Musgrave Hill State School, same as Penny actually. One of those pleasurable things, we've got something in common. And with that, we moved down to Coolangatta. My parents had a business down there. I've worked since I was 6, and I'm still working. And from the age of 6, having a service station is what we had in Coolangatta. I've served the public, worked with the community my entire life. Now, working with the community my entire life, that means that I've then got through school, working, then into high school at Kilbra Park High. I spent my whole high school there. And there I was learning and working and have managerial positions on weekends with little small businesses around Southport and the Gold Coast. All those is what builds a person, builds a man or a woman into something bigger and better, and they can carry, learn and bring these experiences and the knowledge that they gained. Well, after school I ventured into international trading. I then was doing exporting and importing. I also was a general manager of a publishing firm, built it from 6 people through to 50. It grew so big we had to relocate it to Sydney. With relocating it to Sydney, I relinquished my position as a general manager. I have had other positions in jobs which are very important, once again still serving the public. And with that, I've served the public in doing the logistics for the events, which you've probably seen me at the sporting arenas, NRL, those sort of things, and also our events that you have for your Christmas carols. We help to put it together in what you don't need, because I hear people talking constantly about what they want and what they don't want and what they're not happy with. I can assure you there's a lot of things that bring this forward and needs, it would be wonderful. I'd like to now mention some of the policies that I'd like to bring, which I hear consistently, and that would be having a children's hospital on the Gold Coast, a children's hospital that will specialise in taking care of our young ones that do need help, because I know and I hear it all the time how families, parents have to consistently go to Brisbane. It's not easy to do that. They've got to organise, rearrange their life, find someone to take them up there and then make the meeting that they've got to go to attend to their loved ones. Well, that Children's Hospital would be, I say, if allowed, and if the research done, to facilitate our quarters, our police quarters out at near Gold Coast University Hospital, and doing that having it there so we have quarters, a portion of that, to be used to house and allow people, families, mothers and fathers, to have somewhere to stay. These are one of my dreams that I hear and know that people would want and want implemented. Believe me, it's hard to get your dream across to people with what you've learned over the times, but I can assure you, when it's all put on paper and it's there, it's not an honest impression, it's something that comes to reality, because when you dream it, it will come true. Another one of these policies that I do want to implement is I want a bus interchange throughout Nerang. A bus interchange to service all the community out there, because my idea of the Gold Coast is not broken up in divisions such as, we have division councillors, yes, but not such as a division as the Gold Coast is broken up. The Gold Coast as a whole, to me, it's a complete city, it's a complete community with all of you. All of you that are here tonight, you're not all from the same area, but obviously from various areas. And I do notice, because I've met some at other forums that are here tonight, and it's wonderful to see you again. Thank you for coming. Thank you, but I haven't finished. But there's the bell. But believe me, with the heavy rail, another policy that should be implemented, and I will find that it will take place when elected mayor, is the heavy rail. It should have been done from where it is right through to Coolangatta Airport. But we can talk more about these after the venue, if you like, and we can just...
Well, thank you very much, candidates. Thank you for observing the 5 minute. It's a bit hard to say what you want to say in 5 minutes, so I thank you all for doing that. And I hope it's been helpful to you to understand at least something that each candidate has said and something that you find of interest. We're now going to move into the questions, and as Derek said at the beginning, I will read the question out and I'll direct it either to everyone or the particular candidate, and they will have 1 minute to answer, and they have microphones on their table. They will have 1 minute to answer, and then the bell will go and they will have 10 seconds to wind it up. The first question I have is to all the candidates, so we might just start at that end of the table with John Abbott first, and then we'll reverse it later for other ones. And the question is this. Now, some of the questions, if you would listen carefully, and if there's too many questions in it, what I'd ask you to do has been ignored by the council. What are your plans to revitalise our Division 5?
The hinterland, especially Tambourine Mountain, has a lot of joy for me. I love hang gliding. I've been off the mountain. I've flown with an eagle. I've been so fortunate, and I'll never forget the experience. To me, the mountain is an integral part of the Gold Coast. It's beautiful, it's majestic, it's our rainforest, it's our picnic grounds, it's the valleys. It's just magnificent, and it should be handled with care. But on the other hand, have our tourists enjoy it as well. Very few tourists go up there, and I think what I would do is I would look to the council to find ways of improving the hinterlands, improving the Tambourine Mountain and all the valleys and everything, all the facilities up there. I love taking my friends to the hinterland, to Tambourine, and show how we have our beautiful beaches and the hinterland within an hour of each other. And to me, that's one of the magical things about the Gold Coast, and it should not be overlooked, ignored. Thank you.
I look to job-generating projects for businesses district in Nerang, kickstarting the business district with Price and Avell Street, musical and art festival to be held on the river, improved car parking, more walkways and pedestrian access. But more importantly, with any plan, you've got to engage community consultation, and together with our local state MP, Cramp, we can work together, consult, and come up with the Nerang 2020 vision. Thank you.
Now, I might just repeat the question. It's what are your plans to revitalise our Division 5?
Is that on? Okay. Well, first of all, I think everybody's screaming out for buses here so that you can actually travel to and fro. But to be quite honest, I'd have to really get out there and ask through the division, you know, like whoever you vote for in the division, he's going to be your mouthpiece. So it really boils down to what you want. You tell him, then he tells me. So that's what it all boils down to. I'm not a mind reader, so I can't actually tell you what I'm going to do yet because nobody's ever told me anything.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I believe the divisional candidate, or who becomes your divisional councillor, is the first port of call. I think when it comes to, as I said in my introduction about the budget, the fact that the key priorities don't exist, or there's nothing out this way in our key priorities, I think that needs to change. And a crucial part of that is when it comes to that community budget consultation is to actually let the divisional councillor know that you're going to have the budget consultation, which hasn't been happening, and I think that's a sign of respect. I'm very much about making communities resilient, so I think, you know, whether it's increased sporting fields, if that's what you need out here, whether it's more social infrastructure like activities, music, all the rest of it, they've done that successfully in Mudgeeraba, Helensvale and Palm Beach, and I think those type of activities where you don't have to travel far, and also looking at multifunctional areas of development, so people who do work from home or run small business can actually do all their business closer to home, which will also have a benefit with congestion.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's important to realise that the role of the Mayor is the executive chairman of the board. The Mayor has one vote and a casting vote. My back to basics approach to this community will put the question back to you. It's not a question of what my vision is for your community. It's your community's vision for what you want in your particular division. And that is reflected through your councillor, as previous speakers have said. After my independent audit of the operations of council, we can hopefully entertain plans across all divisions for betterment of their amenity, their environment and their employment prospects. I've been criticised by a gentleman on Facebook called Slurms, who says to me that, oh Jim, all you want to do is have a community collaboration-a-thon as part of your going forward. Well, unfortunately for Mr Slurms, the local government is about community. And we have to realise and give the power in this city back to our communities to express themselves in a manner that they see as sustainable. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, working out at Nerang at the sporting facilities, what I have noticed, you have lack of public transport out here. And lack of transport out here is not good for you, not good for your children, and not good for tourists and people that want to come out and visit you. I would like to put forward, when in council, the fact that I mentioned before, a interchangeable hub with buses. It doesn't have to be big buses, but it can be smaller buses. Smaller ones that can cater and do the service to people, families around your area, and then make transport easier for you to get around when you don't have a vehicle or when you have visitors and you don't have the opportunity to take them places. They can then have transport to jump on and go into other parts of the Gold Coast and then arrive back to your suburb safely. Another thing that I would like to do is make sure that you get a service out here. You are part of the Gold Coast, consistently not getting service with your footpaths and your gardens. I would like to make sure you do get the service and the upgrade of your facilities is taken care of consistently.
Now I'll reverse the order and go back through you, Brett, with the next question. And the question is again to all candidates. In fact, all of the questions that I have with me at the moment are addressed to all of the candidates. This question reads, over the years, the Gold Coast has lost many motor racing precincts, with the closure off of the Gold Coast International Raceway, the Gold Coast Speedway, Days Park Junior Go-Kart Club, and probably others. Will the council commit, and probably the mayor commit, to pushing for a project to be started in the northern Gold Coast, Norwell Redlands area.
Absolutely, that's a very good subject. A subject that's on everybody's mind that are motor enthusiasts. I do support this because the fact being, the young man of the house, your son, and possibly your daughter, if they like cars as well. I mean, I have a lot of friends that have got daughters that love cars, and with the proper direction and the proper teaching of what a vehicle is all about, and they have an interest in these areas of these sports, we can assist them by giving them a facility to go to. I do actually miss that because when I was younger, I used to go to Service Paradise Raceway, and that's where I met some of my great idols, such as Dick Johnson and Peter Brock and all of them. And it was wonderful to meet them there and have a facility to go to. If we can get a place to put it at and do it successfully, I do recommend it highly, absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, there has been on the table for quite some time a project called IMET, I-M-E-T-T, which is the Integrated Motorsports Education and Training Project north of Norwell on what is currently state government land. This goes beyond just motorsport and the release for our enthusiasts and our young people. It goes into the area of sports, education and training. It enables us, if done properly, to offer an integrated solution for the unemployment in the rapidly expanding areas to the north of our city. It is also, I might say, a multi-shire approach because we've got the Scenic Rim, Logan and Redlands and even Brisbane involved. I would be recommending to my councillors that we take this on board seriously. Do you know that the people in the north of this city have told me that there is a lack of apprenticeships for some of our manufacturing industries which are located at Yatala? Why? Because the current council is not lobbying state government to change the curricula in the schools. I regard that as most unfortunate for the future of the north of our city.
I think having a safe, monitored, regulated site for motorsports is sensible. I'm sure anyone who's come from Pacific Pines here tonight would be more than sick of having, there's a tremendous hooning problem out at Pac Pines. So I think having a dedicated location that would hopefully alleviate some of that stupidity on our streets. Location-wise, I think it needs to be careful consideration. I've had contact from people who do live in the north, in Pimpamar, who are near a facility that has high performance type go-karts, I think. And they said the noise is horrific, and they've complained and said it's breaching the regulations, and yet nothing's happened. So I think people who are into high performance vehicles need an outlet, but it needs to be careful consideration as to the location so residents aren't impacted.
I was contacted by a gentleman probably about 6 weeks ago, and I rang him back and got his secretary, and I'm still waiting for him to get back to me. Apparently he's put in about $7 million into the racing industry, and he wanted to talk about it. So as far as I know, he's either given up or he just doesn't know how to dial the phone.
When we look at the adrenaline precinct, already we have some private race track up in the north. I feel that the northern area is probably the most appropriate for our city. It's one of the issues that, no doubt about it, that we have to work together with Redland Council and the like, and to put it together. As far as racing and that pastime concerned, I'm for it.
I'm mindful of ancient Rome making sure they had these huge arenas where they had their chariot races, and they were so popular. Racing cars in our streets, many people are not for it simply because of the noise factor. I know one couple, they're friends of mine, who simply leave every time the Armour All 600 is on, because they hate it because of the noise factor and the congestion and you name it. Wouldn't it be nice to have a special arena for these people who want to learn how to drive, safe driving and speed, etc. in the wet, teaching our children like the go-kart over at Pimpamar. I'd be all for enticing the state government to give us a an arena on the Gold Coast for such an event as part of our tourism. Thank you.
The next question probably requires a bit of background, so if you would bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. The population of the Gold Coast is growing every day and is expected to be close to 1 million by the year 2030. Until the election of the current council, several parcels of land were purchased every year with the Open Space Preservation Levy to add to the conservation estate, which provides the city with essential ecosystem services of clean air, water and climate control. However, over the last 4 years, no land has been purchased and the funds have been diverted to maintenance and existing properties. The question of this questioner is, will you ensure that the funds raised under the Open Space Preservation Levy be used for its original purpose for the purchase of land of high conservation value to ensure the objectives of the nature conservation strategy are attained? We'll go with John first.
If funds are collected for any purpose by council, then those funds cannot be used for any other purpose. To do so, in my view, would be fraudulent. If the funds are collected to purchase land for conservation or any other purpose, then that's where those funds go. If there is any intention to do otherwise, then those funds should not be collected because, as I said before, it would be fraudulent for a council or anyone else to collect for one reason and then divert them for whatever reason. Thank you.
In the last 4 years, the levy that's collected for the open space has been put towards the debt that land was acquired through borrowings. What happened here is that prior to us coming in, the previous council acquired more land than what the budget allowed. So they lived on credit card. So either way, the land was acquired. The debate whether that's good or not, I think there's forward thinking, but we have to live within our means. So what we've got right now is one, we're maintaining the land and opening it up so that people can get through with whether we have bush tracks and things like that coming through. But as far as acquiring further land is concerned, until we can get the debt level down, it's hard to just borrow more money and riding on with the debt. In saying that, however, I'm open-minded. If we see a parcel of land that's crucial for our open space, then we've still got to look at it, and if it's got its merit, then we should go for it.
Well, it says it all, doesn't it? It says what the council's been doing for the last 4 years. So, you know, if that's what it's there for to actually do, well, you've got to look at other avenues, and that's what it's all about. If you're going to start...
So this sort of that's the second reason for whether the second. I've asked the question of council in writing as to where these levies are being spent. A request to information. Of land. Definition on your rates bill talks about acquiring land of conservation value, and if that's not happening, change the definition then. So I'm 100% committed that whatever the levy is designed to do, that's how it will be spent, and if not, it needs to be publicised as to why not.
I think the Mayor's answer just serves to underline why it is that we need to have an independent financial audit. Cross-budgetary plunders account to a quasi-increase in rates. An increase in... Effectively what's happening is that we're using that money to reduce debt. It was allocated otherwise, so I regard that as, in effect, an increase in our rates. Look, open space is the therapeutic and creative release for a city, its citizens and its visitors. We need to ensure that we've got quality open spaces in appropriate places which are endorsed by the community, and we also need to ensure that those areas are properly maintained and expanded in accordance with community wishes as the city expands.
Yes, and to answer your questions, when funds are gathered for these facilities, should they be spent on those facilities? Yes, absolutely. Being on the committee of Surf Paradise Rowing Club for quite a few years, when I was rowing for them, it was a situation where we had to raise money and we had to allocate money. We never ever robbed Peter to pay Paul to say, okay, look, we need another rowing boat, but hey, let's buy the oars first and not get the rowing boat. We would make sure that all the money was there and allocated to a rowing boat with oars, and then it could be used on the water and enjoyed, and then you can go and compete as we did. It's not a situation where the funds are raised and say, well, hang on, let's take the funds from there and use them over there. As Mr. Wilson has spoken, an audit is what will be done if elected mayor. As I have mentioned in the forum, the first forum we went to, I brought this subject up to save money for the council, because we're talking about not just the future, but now. And now means saving money so it can be spent in the appropriate areas, and also so we don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then your community and your open areas can be maintained correctly. So the funds should be spent wisely and with common sense.
Now, starting with Brett again, the next question is, as a candidate, do you have any preferencing arrangements with any other candidate or candidates?
Sir, no, I don't. I don't have any preferences with anybody. I have made no deals with anybody. I haven't done from the start. I stood my ground on this fact, because when the people approached me and I made it quite aware to them that I was running for mayor, they said, Brett, if we vote for you, do we get you? I said, well, this is how it works. I am a one-man team. I do not have advisors behind me. I do not have a marketing team behind me. I am single-handedly running my campaign. As I sit here in front of you, I am applying for a job that is important to run the city and also be amongst the other councillors, so we can sit down and discuss things in a way that benefits the community, not me, you. So therefore, as you said, have I made any preference deals? No. I have done no deals with anybody. I have taken no finances from anybody. It is my own savings. I am who I am. You do get the man that you vote for.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may have interpreted from my opening remarks that I consider it fundamental that there be change in the leadership of this city. I passionately believe that. And we've had many debates and discussions about it. It's with that in mind that it's been well known for quite some time that I'm preferencing Penny Toland, this fine person who's sitting beside me, who has wonderful values. The only thing that I would say in my defence is that I think I've got a little bit more experience than she has in running big organisations. But she's a wonderful person, and I've had the utmost pleasure in preferencing her. We're doing that at the pre-polls. It's been widely known for a long time. And there are other parties we preference, and with all due respect to the mayor, we're putting him last on our how to vote. Thank you.
I think that sort of sums it up. When I looked at how to do my how to vote card, I looked at whose positions and values were most closely aligned with mine, and that is Jim. So Jim's got my number 2 spot, and my how to vote card reflects that.
Well, here's the bombshell. Vote me for 3, because actually I want you to vote 1 and 2 for Penny Toland and Jim Wilson.
One for Tom.
No, there have been no arrangements. However, I do have my preferences, and they certainly will be outlined in my how to vote card. But saying that, I would urge you all not to Be flippant about who you vote for. Have your preference? Yes, you're number one, but make sure, I would urge you, to number all the other squares, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Please do not waste your vote. It is important because this is critical. Your preference vote is as important as your first vote. Please do not change. Please do not, thank you.
Well, I'm very pleased to see that the Australian sense of humour has finally come out in you. We actually had some laughter then, so good on you. Please keep it up. This question is, with all the high-rises coming up over old houses and townhouses being built and towering over old houses and the new developments along the coast, why are the rates not reducing, or at the very least, fixed for a reasonable period? John.
Rates presently are being calculated on the value of our property. In other words, if you've worked hard enough to build a more substantial property and you are more proud of that property, you feel it's more comfortable, you are penalised because you will be taxed on that property. My concern is that that is too much or akin to taxation, land taxation, which in my view is improper and possibly unconstitutionally. Now, what I would say, as I've said before, what should be done is the council should form its budget over expenditure, from there divided by the amount of people that are paying the rates. Presently what happens is that every person is being taxed to the value of our property, and then it's up to council to determine where all that money is going to go. To me, it's improper, and I would certainly change that. Thank you.
Well, the value of the land and the system is set by the state government. But as far as our rates concerned, I've put to you that we want to continue with the low rates as possible, and as we move towards the Commonwealth Games, there is additional expenditure we had to do, and that was another $212 million. But as far as our rates is concerned, it's the job where we've got to make sure that it's the current rate pegged at CPI or less.
I was quoted in yesterday's paper as rising the rates, and that's what the Gold Coast Bulletin said. But then again, it doesn't really matter what I say by the Gold Coast Bulletin or Channel 9, just for that matter. And I'd have to say that 5 candidates have been totally ignored in the lead up to this whole debacle. So as far as the rates goes, I reckon that could be worked out so that it actually does slowly decrease. But at this point in time, I was prepared to say, well, wait until I can see what I can do with the budget. But apparently, no matter what I say, it doesn't count anyway.
I think, unfortunate as an outsider, we're not privy to, as I said, where all the funds are going. So do I think our rates far exceed other areas like Brisbane? Most certainly, and I want to know why that is. But from the outside, you can't determine that information. So until I have that information, it's very hard. But I think the cost of living is people are struggling. So the lower I can keep rates or decrease them, that's certainly a priority for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have here a letter written to all residents by the Mayor in 2012, April 2012, enclosing 2 postal voting applications where he assured us he was going to deliver lower rates. I understand the difficulties of that, but that was the promise. This whole thing's getting ahead of us. The development's getting ahead of this city. I think a lot of our people feel like they're on quicksand in this city. It's changing so quickly around them. Who knows what the rate should be until I do the independent financial audit of this city? How can I say to you what we should or should not be doing? I note the Mayor is now saying that we're going to peg it at inflation. Well, who says it's not going to be double inflation because we were promised lower rates in 2012? The whole city plan's been badly explained and we need to get it. And we need you to be in charge and understand how it's going to impact upon not only your amenity, but also future infrastructure charges to help fix traffic and other problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, rates are collected for a reason. As you understand, rates are there to help you have a community that's safe, clean, and your environment around you is all taken care of. Therefore, if these rates are taken in, you want to know that they're spent wisely. That is correct. We don't have the information, as the other candidates have mentioned, some of the candidates have mentioned. We don't have the information and the details of everything that can be done or trimmed. But we do know that promises have been made to people like yourself, the people who are 60 and over, that a 10% was given to them, but not carried out. That is also on their house rates and their water rates. This hasn't taken place, but I can assure you if a promise is made with rates and there are any cuts or discounts to be given, I will make sure that they are carried out, implemented, and you will get the benefit of it because you deserve it. This is your community, this is your city, this is your place to enjoy, and you should have full control of what's going on. We are here to serve you, and if it's bringing down the rates, making sure you get a better service, you will get that.
Over the past 4 years, the Gold Coast Regional Botanic Gardens has greatly deteriorated through inadequate care and appropriate support from Council. If elected, what will you do to focus much needed attention to better care and completion and growth of this major asset on the Gold Coast, that is the Regional Botanical Garden? Brett. What will you do to maintain and build up the asset of the Gold Coast Regional Botanical Garden?
What I would do is make sure that the services are carried out. There would be also an audit taken out on these botanical gardens to make sure that what is promised to maintain it, what it takes to maintain it, but then once it's done and the audit has taken place, to make sure that it's implemented so that there's no shortcuts taken. You've paid, you should receive. There's no discounts here, as in such as, oh, you're only going to get a half a shovel to shovel half the dirt. You will get a full shovel to shovel all the dirt and plant all the seeds and also maintain the gardens, and throughout your botanical surroundings, it will be pristine so you can enjoy, like, and take your family through. And what can I say? Nerang's a beautiful place. I love it here.
Ladies and gentlemen, all great cities of the world, and we aspire to being a city of true international stature. All great cities of the world pride their green space, their open space, and try to develop unique points of difference around that. And the Regional Botanical Gardens in our subtropical location that we are, we're 27.5 degrees south of the equator. Orlando, Florida is 27.5 degrees north. We should be doing whatever we can in accordance with my earlier comments about preserving the therapeutics of open space for our city and our visitors. And we should also be seeking out more. I'd much rather see money going into expanding our botanic gardens and to preserving our spit as our central park than to more wasteful expenditure on a cruise ship terminal.
As I said in my opening, public open space is going to become increasingly critical for our city as our population doubles. So as a candidate, I presume we all were contacted by representatives of the Botanical Gardens asking, do we hold that area as high priority? I answered yes. I think that area, along with other areas of open space, are critical and actually bring return too, because ecotourism is taking off internationally, and that's something that the Gold Coast is rich in at the moment. And I think we have to protect that if we're going to continue to be the tourism capital of Australia.
I totally agree with Jim on that. As far as the Botanical Gardens goes, what should have been put aside instead of chasing a frivolous shipping terminal, we could have actually looked for jobs for the youth and gave them jobs down at Botanical Gardens and also the Spit. Both of them need attention, not just the Botanical Gardens.
Well, frankly, that question offends the Friends of Botanic Gardens. They have worked so hard. We've been working together with the aid of the Green Army. They have been resourced up. They've been planting more trees. They have improved the waterways along there, and we're working to design for additional facilities for the Friends of Botanic Gardens. So the person who asked that question obviously is not in that loop. I invite you to come down, talk to the Friends of Botanic Garden, and see how this current council has worked hand in glove and to improve our botanic gardens.
We live in a subtropic, and the subtropics yield the most beautiful flowers and plants and trees. These are things that our visitors want to see. I would entice more visitors to the Botanic Gardens and display the pride that we have in our open spaces and our greenery and our beauty and our birds and all the natural wonders that the subtropics are about. This is what we need. We need to be more excited, I believe, about what we have and promote what we have. People don't know. People spend so much time walking up and down Cavill Avenue. They should be taken by bus tours and whatever to the magnificence of our gardens, especially the Botanic Gardens, because as Tom says, the Friends of the Botanic Gardens have done a lot of work, and that should be displayed. It should be promoted. It should be screamed out the whole world. This is us. This is how we live. This is what we're proud of. This is what we love. This is the beauty, the colour and the majesty of the subtropics, especially the Gold Coast. Thank you.
What is your stance in respect to the proposed high-rise, high-density residential developments within low-rise, low-density existing residential areas across the city?
In my view, we have a beautiful skyline at Surfers Paradise and up and down the whole coast. I think at this point in time, we need to take stock of what we have, appreciate what we have, and don't mar it by overbuilding. As far as I'm concerned, we have enough high-rise at this point in time because the congestion on our roads is starting to rear its ugly head, and it ain't going to get any better. With each high-rise, it's just going to get worse. So we need to be more cautious. We need to balance what we have in relation to high-rise, low-rise, keep the people who want to live in suburbia-type environment on the coast or near the coast. Don't cruel them by throwing up towers that are going to shade their way of life. Thank you.
With this new town plan that has been adopted 6th of February, 50% of our city has been quarantined and kept for open space reserve. For a city of this size, it's one of those areas that we are not sprawling out. So if we're not sprawling out and we maintain our open space, it's really protecting our lifestyle. It's a fine balance, but that comes first. But you know, people are coming here on the Gold Coast, so as far as density is concerned, in areas where it's already dense, going up to, for people to go up instead of sprawling out is my preference. So that out in the suburbs, the character of Nerang, Mudgeeraba, Tugun and the like, if you read the town plan, those characters are to be kept the way it is.
Obviously, Tom Tate's weakness is transport and infrastructure. All they keep on doing is choking the roads in and out of Southport, Surfers Paradise and Broadbeach. One of the worst things they ever did was put a damn tram in there.
I think that is the concern with all these high density developments. I am very focused on maintaining urban character, so that means a mixture of developments or a mixture of character amongst our suburbs. I keep hearing this comment about building up and not sprawling out, but then when people raise concerns about the light rail path and the fact that the city plan overlay map gives 800 metres on either side of where the light rail will go, the ability to build high density. And in response, Tom, you've said they can do high density but low rise, like a 3-storey. So to me, if we're talking high density, low rise, that almost sounds like how many spots can we cramp into a little spot? We don't want to create a ghetto along a light rail track. So I think maintaining balance across the city, having people having confidence that they're not going to get a high rise in their backyard is extremely important. And I want to reinstate protections into the city plan to make sure that urban character across the city is maintained.
Again, folks, I'd like to bring a different perspective to this. The Bold Futures plan, which was the plan of the previous City Council, cost you $5 million, and it was thrown out the door by the current administration led by the Mayor. The facts of the matter are a lot of these issues were addressed in that plan, and it was because that plan went into these issues too deeply that the people that created it were labelled greenies and madcap sort of people who gave too great a balance to the things that are most important to us, and that is, what is the proximity of this open space to which the Mayor refers to the density about which he's referring? It's not much point in having 150 hectares out at the back of Nerang here somewhere, beautiful and all as it is, if the people in close on the slither of sand have got nowhere to go and express themselves, which is why I'm in favour of the spit being our central park. In terms of the future of this whole city plan, which has been so abysmally explained to you in the community, it's my community consultation, it's my recommendation to the new council that we go back to all communities and explain it to them, hear their views and take appropriate action to remedy it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a situation that's come up on will come from everybody's lips about the high-rises to be built. Now, they say if you see cranes, you see progress. Well, I see progress not just in cranes building high-rises, but I see progress as in such as I mentioned earlier, a children's hospital that we so lovingly and desperately need here on the Gold Coast to service our community. Well, progress can take place in many ways, such as I strongly believe open planning. Open planning is good. It's good for families to be able to own their dream house, have their families grow up in a community or a little town such as we have out at Ormo, Mudgebar and Springbrook and those places. I went to Springbrook the other night to their meeting, and they are a close-knit community. Now, that's not a high-rise situation, but you've got people that are closer and warmer about looking after each other because they have open planning. We too should support this on the Gold Coast. High-rises are too much. They are crowding, they are creating density, and it's a situation that needs to be looked upon seriously to open planning.
This is really a related question, springing on further from what you've just been speaking of. How are you going to address the concern of residents that council is not taking enough notice of their views and favouring developers over existing residents?
Well, this is where we get back to basics. Common sense prevails here. We have divisions from 1 to 14, and we have another seat which is called the mayor's seat. So how we listen is we have our division candidates. They then listen to their area. And when they listen to the area, they come back and we all gather around the table and we discuss things, and we have to have a meeting which should be listened to seriously from each candidate that comes back, and we all talk, we discuss. And the situation there where you say, what can we do to help the people of the Gold Coast? Simply by listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I addressed the UDIA, I appealed to developers to stop giving donations to councillors. Why? Because the High Court has said it's anti-ethical and a subtle form of corruption, but there's a more commercial reason than that, and that is that it gets all you guys offside, and it gets everybody emotional about how we're going to handle this rapidly expanding development because we think the developers are buying off the councillors. I'm not saying that they are, I'm not saying that, the perception's the reality. So we have to have a partnership with the development industry, but it has to be mature, intelligent, and one where the community is as much a part of it as the developers are. I work for you, I don't work for the developers if I'm elected. So I have to listen to you and our councillors have to listen to you, and we have to engage with the developers on the basis that they behave in a responsible commercial manner so that our community can get along together and that our community forums can work together to identify how it is that we want our city to develop into one of truly international stature.
Also at the UDIA debate, I made it very clear the community sets the expectations of how they want their city to look like. The council forms the boundaries and developers are to work within those boundaries. So one of my policies to help make that happen is to reinstate the Urban Design Advisory Committee, which is independent of council, independent of the Office of Mayor, and the people that sit on that are the heads of the schools at the universities, Bond and Griffith, so the head of architecture, landscape architecture, urban planning, transport, all those important elements that go into making sure that we get high quality development. See, bigger is not always better for our city, and I think developers, they do have a massive role in creating our urban landscape, and I want a beautiful city. And that's the challenge I put forward to the developers is, you know, this is our city. You need to enhance it with your developments. And I think by having that independent body put their recommendation in with the planning report to the planning committee and then on to council for voting, I think that's critical. Thank you.
It doesn't say much for the mayor and the divisional councils that we've had in the last 4 years. If they can't see the scope that you've got to do infrastructure first and then do development, it's just plain as day that it makes common sense. If you haven't got the infrastructure in you, if you put development in first, you go for infrastructure. It makes it so much harder. It's just simple. So I don't understand why they actually go with all these developers, build all this and create all this havoc, and not even look into what they're going to do with infrastructure, and all of a sudden come up with an idea that you're going to put a ferry down the river, that when the tide's out, you can't even get over the sandbar. So I don't understand it.
Well, when a development gets submitted, there's a town planning instrument that they have to abide by, but one of which the local area councillor is instrumental to listen to the community. Now, if there's any development that is of main concern, the divisional councillor brings up the problem and the concern to full council or even at the planning committee. I can tell you that as far as the voting is concerned, when it comes to that, we are guided by our local area councillor. At the same time, you know, take an example as far as the mosque is concerned, on planning issue and the community issue that didn't want the mosque there. That's why council voted against it. Now, once that happened, it goes to court and we will fight it in court. So that's an example of how councillors and the whole part of it, we have to listen to the community to get the balance right.
I've heard say that developers would not be attracted to 2 cars per unit, and yet ultimately that's what happens. There will be 2 cars in general for each unit, which then means these cars are parked in the streets, prohibiting, of course, our streets access to them. Many are parked wrongly or in the driveways or up against the driveways or whatever, causing chaos on our roads. So whilst we do not want to discourage developers, because developers are part of the ecology, if you will. They create jobs, they move the things on and so on, and certainly we do not want to discourage them, but we want to dampen them a little bit because the Gold Coast, as far as I'm concerned, is getting to the stage of being overdeveloped. And I would suggest that we look to outer reaches, Upper Coomera, up Yatala area, and start looking at super cities in the outer as opposed to try and bring everything to the Gold Coast. But certainly it's something that needs to be treated carefully, cautiously and with balance. Thank you.
Now this question is primarily directed towards the Mayor, and the questioner has asked that after the Mayor speaks, if all the other candidates would give their opinion. So the question is, a video last week on Save Our Spit showed you saying that the Oceanside cruise ship terminal was not viable and would not proceed, and council documents were shown confirming this. Now, this is a major election platform for you. Why is it any different now, and where is your cost-benefit analysis for the ratepayers to see before the election?
As far as my comment regarding that the cruise ship terminal is not viable on the ocean side, I reject that comment, right? Now, as far as a cruise ship terminal is concerned, the broader part of it, we have to broaden our economy, and that includes tourism economy. Including in that, we have to have more events in our city, more medical tourism, and when it comes to the cruise ship tourism, that's one part of it that I'm putting it to the people of the Gold Coast. This industry is growing at 20% each year. And when you look at it, the job creation for the future generation, it's available. However, let me put it this way. They still have to jump through the environmental impact study. And if it doesn't tick that box, at the federal state, I'll be the first to say no. But it's a good part for us to look at it and take it as an option.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to ask each candidate just to make a quick comment as the questioner has asked them, and I'll start with Mr. John Abbott.
Well, my view, what I aspire to, coming from the entertainment industry, and really it is the rock and roll industry, the most powerful, the richest, the most influential industry in the world. I've learned a lot about the industry, and that's what I've learned, in essence, is that the tourism and the industry, the entertainment industry, are literally welded at the hip. We're both entertaining people. And I would use that knowledge to bring to the Gold Coast excitement, glitz, glamour, and enjoyment. I would make sure that every one of our visitors would go back home with lots of photographs and a big smile on their face and make lots of recommendations. I think it's about time we took the entertainment industry a little bit more seriously, because it's for a little cost in props, etc., we can make Surfers Paradise a joy. We can take a leaf from the theme parks, Walt Disney's for example, who make sure that every corner is a prop, just another reason, excuse to take another photo. The glamour, the prestige, of course, is boundless and timeless. This is where we need to go. The Gold Coast has a lot going for it, but it's not being utilised. Thank you. Andrew
Middleton.
If we're looking at the actual terminal here, nobody wants it, and as far as I know. It doesn't suit the surface. It doesn't suit the people here on the Gold Coast. There's probably a few that actually wouldn't mind it for the fact that they could get on a boat here and then go elsewhere, but that's not actually bringing in people into the community here, is it? So the easiest way to work it out is, like, they've got a massive one going in Brisbane. So if you had transit, and if they were doing a 3-day stop, fair call, and you could get the people to come down here on a 3-day stop on buses and stuff. But as far as it goes, to have buses in our city anywhere near the Spit is an absolute joke.
I'm absolutely dumbfounded that you rejected those comments. Unless you have a secret identical twin, the footage is there. I suggest anyone who hasn't seen the video go on to Save Our Spit's Facebook page and check it out. The current mayor refers to an oceanside terminal as cost prohibitive, and has major companies are investing $100 million of their own money in expanding the Port of Brisbane. They do not want a wayport, they want a home port. Is the Gold Coast more beautiful than Brisbane? I argue that it is, but that's not what they're looking for. They want infrastructure. They want to refuel, offload sewage, restock. And I think enough money has been wasted. $1 million has been wasted. The offshore terminal, as council documents show, was ruled out back in 2012. It's about time we look at getting the tourists down here to the Gold Coast, where they can start and finish their holiday here, spend nights in our hotels, eat from our restaurants, not rush back to the ship to get the food there, which is what happens when they visit a wayport. My mind is blown that you reject those comments.
The question was, a video last week on Save Our Spit showed you saying, that is the Mayor, saying that the Oceanside cruise ship terminal was not viable and would not proceed, and council documents were shown confirming this. Now this is a major election platform for you. Why is it any different now, and where is your cost-benefit analysis for the ratepayers to see before the election?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, cruise ship terminals and light rail to the airport and those sorts of things have become just distractive political ploys. I have called upon the Mayor to give me, so I can give to you, a full detailed explanation of the costings for both of those projects so that we can get some idea of what it is that he's talking about. The Mayor has chosen to make this an election issue, a stand or fall election issue, and has failed to provide us any information. I say he should fall. There has also been $1 million spent in cash, but the Mayor fails to tell us what about the activity-based costing to be applied to all the senior council executives who were working on these delusional projects, right, when they otherwise could have been applying their time to servicing our community in the more fundamental needs that we need back in our streets and our precincts and our parks and our foreshores and our beaches. We have not been told that.
It's difficult being the last speaker. Most topics get covered, don't they? But the situation is, I don't know about you guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sick of hearing about the cruise ship. I really am. It's a pie-in-the-sky idea. It is only a proposal. The figures don't add up. 140,000 people come off the ships here to the Gold Coast if it was made and if it was put in. Impossible. Approximately 2,000 to 2,500 people per ship. You do the maths. That means 70 ships a year to stop at a day port here. Impossible. You can't get 70 ships here. It doesn't happen. It's a pie-in-the-sky dream that really is not going to take place. Look, what we should concentrate on is the things that haven't been finished. How about our heavy rail? Put the money into our heavy rail, connect both airports. Put it in there so whenever you get diverted from one airport to the other, you then have the ability to get on a train and come straight back home within an hour instead of being shuttled on a bus and getting back in 4 hours. Let's get our light rail not to the second stage that's going out to Helensvale, but let's get it out from Broadbeach out to Nerang train station, connect them up, facilitate our sporting arenas, because we need our sporting arenas to have transport to it. We need transport to go from where they stay at their campus all the way back, all the way around. That's what happens when I get passionate. I'm sorry.
Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, what I said about politics and passion. So you'll remember when you were young and in love, the passion is the same with politics. This is the question for all candidates, starting with our very passionate would-be mayor, Brett. What is your vision then, Brett, for the Spit?
It's simple. Common sense prevails. Leave it alone. Let's not curb and channel it. It is where I have gone for the last 54 years and enjoyed it, just as your children will and you are now. You can enjoy it. Leave the Spit alone. We don't need to curb and channel it. It's a natural part where we don't have to go far. Within 10 to 15 minutes, you can be there, enjoy it, walk out on the Spit wall and come back, be in touch with nature and then go back. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, you might get to enjoy this, but it's there. Leave it alone.
I have a slightly different view, and that is if we want to turn it into I'm very mindful of my words here, into a quality international open space like our Central Park, I think it's really, really important that we engage with the Friends of Federation Walk, with Save Our Spit, with Save Our Broadwater, with all the other, with the businesses. There's a massive economy there already, and we need to make sure that it's not left by council and state government as a place where the riffraff go, so that it might then create pressure upon us to develop it. We need to make sure that we create it as something that's of truly international stature, and that the businesses and the visitors and the residents and the overseas parties that take an interest in all of the species that are there, we can have something that was really, really world class.
I'm very passionate about the area of the Spit, so I want it maintained. Do we need some amenities up there? We do. It needs to be looked after. And I also want to take whatever steps are necessary to stop the debate. So every 10 years, we're not battling another developer coming along and wanting and seeing that open space and going, what can I put on it? Whatever steps are necessary to actually give certainty to that area. We call it our Central Park. You don't see people in New York having to fight every decade to protect that area in New York. And I think we need to get to the same position to just stop the divide in the community and just look after it.
Yeah, I actually agree with both of them, but there's probably one other thing that probably needs addressing is if you go out there on a Saturday or Sunday, especially on a Sunday, the length of wait getting out and the length of wait coming back. So I think maybe there's an extra lane or something might be needed in the transit out there, and that's about, you know, the basics of it, because it's there for everybody to enjoy, just not the people that have got the patience to wait.
As far as the Spit's concerned, the council position and my position is no development north of Seawell and Nara. As far as the infrastructure is concerned, we have to work together with the Gold Coast Waterway Authority, as it is their land. And I think that I agree with Andrew that we should make sure that amenities are there so that we can get up there and come back without a lot of delays on the traffic. Keeping that in mind, taking that on board with the state government and the Gold Coast Waterway Authority, it's time that we actually plan together and have a master plan and set that in place, so that once and for all you'll see that with the master plan in place, we know as a city what's expected. But I'll just go back, as far as north of Seawell Nara is concerned, let's improve the amenities.
40 acres of land, prime land on the other side of the Brisbane River was Expo. And once the Expo was over, what we were going to do with all that beautiful land, that prime land. The community got involved, everyone put in their 2 cents in relation to what they would like to see done. Ultimately, it was absolutely right what they did. They got it exactly right. And I would urge all my fellow candidates here that maybe we should involve the people of the Gold Coast, the residents, as to what you want to do with it. Let's develop it in relation to your thoughts, your ideas, with the environment on family, the emphasis on parklands, the emphasis on picnic grounds, barbecue areas, whatever. But I think it's high time that everyone put in their suggestion and develop it just like we did with South Bank and make it magnificent and a place where families can enjoy it, and it's everlasting, along with Whitebreak Island, and let's keep them as natural as possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your patience and for hearing everyone out. We're only halfway through the questions, so steel yourself, because we've got quite a few more to go. And I thank you for your patience, and I hope we can hang on in here. As Nerang is the geographical centre of the Gold Coast, why is it not treated as such? And to make it the business centre and the main offices of the council, why has this not happened? Access would be easier if this was the case. John.
Well, I often wondered that myself. At the end of the day, the council areas was in these areas, and of course it was out of the congested areas, and it should be, in my view, brought back. The council should be in these grounds and should be developed accordingly. Nerang is the geographical centre, and it should be the hub of the Gold Coast in relation to commerce, in relation to residents, and the way the whole Gold Coast is concentrating in the way it's run, etc. So in my view, Nerang should not be bypassed or ignored, but rather should be treated for what it is, the hub of the Gold Coast. Thank you.
The Gold Coast is a linear city. So from Coolangatta to Yatala, and I don't disagree with you that Nerang is in the centre. However, the infrastructure is already there for the City of the Gold Coast Council. We have 3,800 employees. Some of them, some of the departments are here in Nerang, and some of them are together now in Bundle. Now, before we came in, it was spread right through, whether it's Robina and the like. We're able to amalgamate it into two areas now, and that was the best value that we could do. At that time, we were able to acquire those two buildings and in Bundle to make sure that instead of paying high rent in Robina and the like, to start again and put it all in the one, we go back to the original idea of a centrepiece, and you would be looking upwards of $300 million.
I've got to be honest, I have no idea.
I presumed it was a cost reason as to stay in Surfers Paradise, but one thing I wanted to add is if I am elected mayor, my office will be where the workers are. I won't be operating out of a separate suburb, which is currently the case.
I'm getting into the habit of you handing it to me now. The answer to your question, folks, is I don't know, but as I said to the ICT industry the other night when I had the privilege of addressing them, is that that industry needs to come up with a plan itself with the help of council. I think that each of our precincts, particularly the more developed ones, need to have a plan for development which the community owns and the businesses in the community have a say in. I would encourage this community to not think about attracting the big businesses. The little fish sometimes are sweetest. For example, does this area lend itself towards an ICT hub? Does it lend itself towards an agribusiness type research centre? I might add that a lot of that is going to be extraordinarily difficult unless we get some sort of NBN connectivity that's internationally competitive.
Can I just have directives on that question again, please?
Yes, the question is, as Nerang is the geographical centre of the Gold Coast, why is it not treated as such, and why do you not make it the business centre and the main offices of the council in Nerang?
Well, that question we can't answer clearly because we're not in office at present, and therefore the situation that takes place as it should be, the centre, I do agree, because geographically, yes, it is a centre. So due to the fact that we don't have the information, I'm not going to give you any story that's not true. But when elected, I certainly will be doing an audit on all the council offices that are being used, not being used, and what should be located to where it should be located, and an audit should be done so that your money is spent wisely instead of wasted on offices like the one at Varsity Lakes where our CEO is situated. There's a situation there that's wasted. Money is wasted, ratepayers' money. So as it goes for offices and departments, this has to be taking place where an audit will take into consideration where, who, why and how.
I propose to ask 4 more questions, and then I will ask the candidates to give their summing up so that they have a minute and you can hear them end what they have done here in terms of answering questions as well as putting their position. So one more question, although, as I said, there will be 4, so this is the 4th. Do you pledge support for making Black Swan Lake a perpetual refuge and not a car park or a housing development?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
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 Let me think about it for a minute. Yes.
I guess I'll have to follow suit because I'd be overridden by that lot anyway if I said no.
Well, you've seen it, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard prospective politicians answer in one word, in the main. Now, someone's going to have to help me with this. I think I can get this right, but please forgive me if the writing's a bit hard. It's directed to the Mayor, and it says, "Sir, do you know that Evandale Parklands is a floodplain? It has a very restricted dry ground available for building on because of the Q100 flood level line that extends into the site and is required for flood mitigation of Evandale and the surrounding properties. Why have you allowed construction on this floodplain, yet won't, and please forgive me if I get this wrong, yet won't on the Werrima one?"
First up, Evandale Lake, yes, is there for the floodplain, and the flood mitigation there flows right through the lake. Right. But as far as building on Evandale, I want to put this to you. The Culture Precinct, stage 1, is about the amphitheatre, getting it ready in time for the Commonwealth Game, and the demolition of the existing old council there, as well as adding contemporary space for our art that we have in storage. We've got tens of millions of dollars of Indigenous art that people can't have a chance to have a look at, especially the younger generation. Well, when this refurbishment and this stage 1 is completed, that artwork can be displayed for all to enjoy. As far as stage 2 is concerned, that's yet to be fully decided for council, but my preference is that we upgrade the existing art centre and make sure that we have a critical mass for our culture precinct. But as far as selling the various land out of the Evandale is concerned, that's not up to us. We're not doing that.
Now, this is the second last question, and it's directed to Penny. Penny, I have friends in the trade union movement that have been told by their union rep that they must vote for you. Ms. Tolan, does this mean that you are backed by the trade union movement?
First I've heard of that. I'm obviously not privy to discussions between organisers and their members. Do I talk to union members? My word, I do, because they're the people that actually work within council. So, and I have many of them helping me out on election day. So they look to me as their preference, the ones that I know of, at least, the ones that are volunteering for me as their preference to help them out, to help me out on polling day, because they understand that I'm about job security, not contracting out services when we have council officers that can already do the work. So if they're choosing to support me as members, then I'm all for it.
Now, this question I think is an important one, and this is the last question I will ask. I assume that we're all Australians, yet, and you heard in the bio, I was a constitutional barrister and I did a lot of constitutional work, and the amount of Australians, if I ask them, what do you understand about the doctrine of the separation of powers? And can you explain to me how the government of the Commonwealth of Australia and relations with the states operates? And we have the benefit of being an advanced country and advanced people with peace in our land. But one of the difficulties is, at times we don't know the background of how we got it and how we maintain it. So this question is probably important to ask all the candidates. Do the candidates understand what the role of council is and the role of mayor entails? And furthermore, do they understand what issues are the purview of the council and other levels of local government? So in effect they're asking, do you know what a council does? It's a breed and subject to the State Government Local Government Act. So Mayor Tate and his council are restricted in a lot of things because they answer to George Street. So the question is, do you understand what the role of council is, and the second part, the role of mayor and what it entails? I'll start with Brett.
Yes, the role of council is to serve their community. The role of council is supposed to be an impartial body. An impartial body that doesn't lean towards any side of political parties. So therefore, remaining neutral and being impartial, you can get things done, which allows us to apply or assist or create a situation that if we can get help from the state or federal government, they will help us because they know we don't lean Labor and they know we don't lean Liberal. So therefore, being an impartial body, the impartial body represents you, represents the community, which we serve you. Make sure that you get all the amenities throughout your community, throughout your city, throughout our Gold Coast, serviced, supplied and addressed. Whether it be your footpaths that are broken down, fixed up, we care, we do the work. We are your employees. We are the people that you ask to get things done. So we are the people that are supposed to listen. And the situation with the state and federal, of course, we can apply, we can do as a body. We get together, we sit together and we collaborate to represent.
To the remaining candidates, can I ask you just to address your answer to the two aspects, the role, functions and duties of council, and the role, functions and duties of the mayor?
The role of council is to provide services to the community that are otherwise not provided by the other levels of government on a basis where there's full community consultation and where there is transparency in how that is given effect to. And as was said earlier, that must be done on an impartial basis. There is no room in community politics for state or federal government nominees or cabals or anything of that nature. We must act truly independently. In the context of what the role of the mayor is, the role of the mayor is set out very easily for you to see on the web. That is basically to represent the city, also to present the budget to councillors for full approval, to issue instructions to the CEO and other senior executive officers, and to conduct the performance review of the CEO on an annual basis. There are other duties listed, which in time permitting I won't go into.
I guess with my legal background, I am very familiar with which level of government has which responsibility. And I think for voters, that is extremely important because I hear a lot of promises that actually cannot be delivered because they are from other levels of government. So delivering stage 3 of the light rail by 2020 without even speaking to the state government first. It sounds like a good idea, but people need to understand that public transport is fundamentally state with federal. We have some responsibility for local roads. The role of the mayor is another councillor. So the mayor is not the boss of the other councillors. A lot of people have that impression, but that's actually not true. The mayor has all the responsibilities councillors have, but just doesn't have a geographical boundary like a division. And as Jim has said, is tasked with the strategic direction of the city, being the spokesperson for the city, although I would argue that divisional councillors should be speaking on issues relevant to their divisions so people know who they are. I think that's crucial, and delivering the budget after consultation with the councillors.
Council acts as a reservoir for the people. What the intake that the people give is taken on by the council, and as Penny said, if it's of a higher issue, it'll end up going to state government. And the role of the mayor is actually only to be a final analysis. It's not actually to bully or make decisions on their own. It's all to do with a deciding vote.
Well, I'm not going to repeat the comment. I just want to put you to focus on Jim's comment is very accurate as far as the role of the council and the role of the mayor is concerned. I'll add on top of that is the mayor is the spokesperson on behalf of the City of the Gold Coast. So when it comes to matters that we've come together and agreed upon, it is the mayor who articulates the position of the city. As far as saying that, yes, the mayor is not the boss, you only have one vote, but in my opinion, when you chair the council and you're there to lead it, as a good leader, you only need to have one vote to take everyone on the journey with you. But the last bit on as far as councillors is concerned, their charter is to look after the whole of the city, not just a division.
We are fortunate tonight to have David Ashton Lewis with us, who is a very knowledgeable man in relation to constitution and laws. He's been certainly a great asset to the legal system. And he may agree with what I say, that the Constitution provides for a two-tier government, which is central and local. Central is the federal, local is the state government. The council is a body corporate. It existed before federation and has now come to our times, although many people have misconstrued what it actually is. A council is, as I said before, a body corporate that services the local community. There are 571 councils across the Commonwealth of Australia. As far as the mayor is the chairman of the board, and he takes the meetings, chairs the meetings, and basically, as Tom said, the spokesperson for the council and the community at large. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is now time, and I'll call upon the candidates in the reverse order. So we'll start with Brett to, in 1 minute, give your final speech on what Mayor Lambert will do.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long night, and thank you for bearing with us. It's a difficult thing to sit here all night and listen to questions that sometimes can have more depth to them than we have time to answer for. It is a situation that questions do have a lot of depth, and you do have a lot of cares and worries that you want done and taken care of around the Gold Coast. Well, my stand for mayor is to reunite our council, work as one, and serve you as a whole. The Gold Coast doesn't consist to me where the silver penny shines in one area, but the Gold Coast is a whole city from one end at Ormo right down to Coolangatta. It's a beautiful place. I've been here all my life, and I want to consistently use the facilities as you do and enjoy them by servicing you in a way that you will enjoy and continue to pass on to your family, and know that your council's working for you. And many of the things are said, you want to know where your rates are going, you want to know where your money's going, let me put it in play for you so you can enjoy the situations that allows you to know where your money's going.
I call upon Penny Toland now. It's gender equality here, ladies.
Thank you. It is my view that we're at a tipping point for our city. I believe the best indication of future behaviour is past behaviour. So I'm all about transparency, balance, having a balanced city, restoring public confidence in our planning instruments. I think that is critical. We have to have a think. We'll be on the world stage soon in 2 years' time with the Commonwealth Games. I think people have to think about who do you want speaking on behalf of the city in front of the world. What does that look like to you? I would like to see, and I say this at every debate, the Gold Coast be the capital of innovation. I think that's done very well in Europe, and I think that's something that we can excel at. I'm sick of, I lecture at Griffith and Bond, and the students say to me, will we work where you work? And the answer often is no. And I think that's a real shame. We invest, we've got 3 universities, we invest in the education of our people, and that they're forced to leave the Gold Coast. And I want to turn that around. I want to be greedy and selfish and keep all the talented, creative, smart, wonderful people here on the coast and provide the infrastructure they need to succeed.
John, if you would please stand up and speak.
Thank you, David. In my view, the time is now. The time has come. What is happening on the Gold Coast in this present time is something that it's going to benefit us for a long, long time to come, and that is we have been graced with the Commonwealth Games. This places a burden and a responsibility and a joy on all of us. So now's the time to prepare to turn our Gold Coast into an international tourist mecca. We should start building for it. We have started building for it, but more ourselves. It's no good putting up buildings. We are the life of the Gold Coast, not the concrete structures. So we should start becoming excited, start to look for ways to present our Gold Coast as a tourist mecca, and we, the people, as part of a tourist mecca. Much is happening and much will happen. Like Brisbane, when it had the Expo in 1988, it changed forever and it's never looked back. This is now our opportunity. Let's take the opportunity, embrace it, and make love to it, because we're in a very fortunate position. Let's not miss that opportunity. Thank you.
Andrew, would you please speak?
Actually, I'd make a pretty damn good mayor, don't you reckon? I've got the hat. But I got to concede one thing. There's two very, very established people in this room that actually I do believe that actually would make very, very good mayors. And I'm speaking about Jim and Penny. Thank you.
John, now. Jim. Sorry, I said John.
Hooray. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not about uniting the council. What I'm about is uniting this community. I think over recent years we've become divided and corroded by delusional type ideas that have got away from the basics of what this city needs and how we should be communicated with, which is why I've suggested to you this evening that before we can go any further we need an independent financial audit, and which will lead into community consultation about major projects so that we can bring our community and all other stakeholders together and take this wonderful city forward. The power's with the people, the power's with democracy, not autocracy. And I want to see democracy reinstituted, and I also want to say this, that I will be encouraging the new council to work very, very closely with our small businesses in this city. We have 60,000 small businesses, about the great majority of them don't have anything to do with construction. And I want to see a new diversified emphasis on where we take this city for jobs for our children, like the IMET project, like taking us away from just plain vanilla education and into higher type aspirations. Thank you very much.
Tom, would you please address the audience?
My passion is about creating jobs for the future generation. 4 years ago, our city was just about on a standstill for jobs. Kids had to look to go to Sydney or Melbourne or move to Brisbane or even overseas. The opportunity to create diversification, broaden our economy is the key, because each one of us want our children to have the opportunity to have the choice to work on the Gold Coast and bring their family up here. And that our family values, as they grow their family, we'll have our grandchildren to come and visit us on the weekends. That's what it's about for our city. And at the same time, as we march towards the Commonwealth Games 2018, we have so much to do as far as infrastructure and getting things going. And I say to you, it's not the time to change the leader at the moment. As far as the council is concerned, it's been a great privilege that we've been the most united council since amalgamation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your patience and for your courtesy. And shortly we will finish, we'll close these proceedings. There is refreshments, tea and coffee. I'm not sure whether there's alcohol, there's probably not. But before you go, obviously I would be grateful if you would thank the candidates, because they've put themselves under your scrutiny, and thank you for their frankness.
On behalf of the Nerang Community Association, I'd like to thank everybody for coming along tonight and hearing some interesting words from people who have a passion for the Gold Coast and it seems a passion for this area, which we all appreciate. The Nerang Community Association was formed 22 years ago to be a voice for the community when an inappropriate development was proposed up against the state forest. We won that, and we're still going, so whoever becomes mayor, you'll be hearing from us. Please stay with us and enjoy some refreshments which our committee members have put together tonight. And thank you all for coming. It's much appreciated. Sorry, I should just like to break in now because what I would like to do is to thank our moderator for tonight and for last week, which he appreciated that. And just as a thank you, we'd like to present you with this, David. Thanks very much.
Well, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but look what I got. It's called Lagavulin Scotch Whisky. Thank you.